All right, everybody. Hopefully you guys can all hear me. We'll be starting off the last webinar for this spring, mostly aimed towards our autumn 2021 applicants and, of course, potential applicants as well. The webinar is titled Last Minute Outlook on Asia Exchange and Beyond Broad Destinations. And well, the agenda for today is to, of course, first of all, provide an outlook on our autumn 2021 semesters for all destinations. You may have been with us in our first webinar this spring, where we went over our categorization of our different destinations for the upcoming semester, and we'll be doing the same right now. Of course, 2 months since the first webinar, there are a few updates to share with you all regarding our destinations. Second of all, we'll be hearing some student experiences. So if you were with us in our first webinar for this spring, we had Megan Helwig and Tim Wagner from Thailand and Korea respectively join us, provide some experiences on their pre-travel preparations, their semesters abroad, and if they have any updates, I'm looking forward to hearing some of those during this webinar, as well as any maybe developments in terms of the pandemic situation that may have happened in these countries. And then, of course, last but not least, please post questions in the chat box. Hopefully Megan, me, and Tim will be able to go through those at the end of the webinar. So we'll be reserving some time for that. And yeah, I did not present myself, but my name's Jonas. I'm the Sales and Relationship Manager here at Asia Exchange. Very nice to have you all with us here today, and I'll be your host for today's session. But yeah, just to recap something we went over earlier this spring as well, but of course there may be quite a few new students here today joining us. So what we like to call our cures for COVID-19, things we have implemented, policies we have implemented to kind of make it easier for you guys. We know it's a stressful situation. Things can change quickly. So we're looking to be flexible ourselves. What this means is we've implemented student-friendly policies. You're able to postpone your semester without any extra costs. We're issuing full refunds on cancellations up to 1 month before the semester starts. We also have extended deadlines for most of our destinations. So if you were to apply independently to these universities outside of Asia Exchange, your deadlines would be coming quite a lot quicker. And then, of course, we've looked to ease document requirements for most of our destinations together with our host universities. Then what we'll be going over shortly is our categorization list of safe destinations. We have them from categorized from levels 1 to 4, depending on what the pandemic situation there currently is, what the restrictions in place are, and how the studies are conducted, for example. Last but not least, I'd like to mention our exchange hubs that we'll be going over. These are located in Lisbon and Bangkok. So if you do not, for example, or have a study placement or aren't able to make it to your original destination, these might be good choices for you. And you'll be hearing a little bit more about our Lisbon and Bangkok hubs shortly as well. But yeah, moving on, our outlook for 2021. So first of all, our category 1 destinations. These are destinations where teaching happens on campus or in a hybrid model, and where the pandemic situation has been constantly under control for the past year and even more than a year, so to say. And then where the traveling into the country has been possible during the pandemic. And we at Asia Exchange think that these are the safe bet destinations for example, the autumn 2021 semester. Why not even the spring 2022 semester? Of course, that is still a little bit away. But yeah, first of all, South Korea, both Hanyang University and Hankuk University of Foreign Studies located there. Well, South Korea in general has been one of the forerunners in terms of the pandemic situation with their strict immigration procedures. I'm sure Megan will provide some insight on these PCR test requirements, quarantine measures, and then, of course, the effective testing and tracing that has been done by the officials there. And then good to mention, both universities currently have a hybrid model in place. What does this mean? This means that depending on the level of alert there in terms of the pandemic situation, classes are either on campus or off campus, also depending a little bit on what the class size is for each course are. Next up, Thailand, where we have Categorization University, Siam University, Rangsit University, and University of the Thai Chamber of Commerce. Similarly to South Korea, they've been able to implement extremely strict immigration procedures. They have a 14-day quarantine in place that can be, for example, done in one of the hotels designated for quarantine. And most classes have been in a hybrid model. I do know that Categorization University has predominantly also been offline for the spring semester. We'll wait and see what the situation is like for the autumn semester 2021. Last but not least, a new addition to our Category 1 destinations. Vietnam is now open for international student mobility, an extremely interesting destination that we launched during the pandemic, unfortunately, but definitely if, let's say, you might be going to a destination in one of the other categories and you want to quickly switch destination to a safe bet, then Vietnam could be the choice for you. They do have strict immigration procedures, PCR tests before leaving into the country, for example, and a 28-day quarantine in place currently. It is important to note that all the situations that I am recapping right now are currently in place and may not be in place for the autumn semester. With the vaccines, for example, rolling out quite efficiently, the situation could change and develop in a very positive manner. And that's, I think, something that we at Asia Exchange are hoping for, but also kind of forecasting for the autumn semester. In terms of Vietnam, the 28-day quarantine can currently be done. For example, the first half you do in a hotel, and then the second half is done in self-isolation. So in that sense, it is actually a 14-day quarantine where the second half is kind of trusted upon any arriving student or, for example, tourist to do by themselves where they see fit. The classes at FTU, seems I have a typo there, but no worries, have been in hybrid model and will continue to be so for the upcoming autumn semester. Moving on, we have our Category 2 destinations currently, where COVID restrictions are still more prevalent. Travel is, however, possible, and the classes have been mostly online. Well, you may have seen the map I had in the beginning of the presentation. You can see that most of the red dots in the red areas are currently in Europe, whereas South and Southeast Asia are less so affected by the pandemic. And this is also why most of our Category 2 destinations are currently located in Europe. First off, Sardinia, Italy, where we have University of Cagliari. This has been reclassified just actually yesterday into an orange category destination. Earlier, it was still classified as a white zone inside Italy, meaning it was one of the safer safer areas in Italy to be in. Regardless, we think that if there is a small spike in cases right now, it's optimal in terms of any students going, for example, for the autumn semester, as these amount of cases can still go down. We still have quite a few months until the semester starts in Sardinia. Similarly, Lisbon, travel still possible, and the case amounts are very low compared to early 2021. We know that, for example, for Christmas and New Year's, there were a lot of Europeans who traveled into Portugal, and the cases went up in Lisbon, in Portugal generally. But right now, the situation is looking quite a lot better. And it's important to note there's strict measures on campus. So what the European University of Lisbon has been implementing is that for each course, they split the students into two groups, where half of the students will be on campus for 1 or 2 weeks, and then they switch over to where the students who were on campus first will have their classes online for the following weeks. Then we also have Costa Rica. This is one of our newest destinations. First of all, in our Beyond Abroad portfolio, we also have quite a few students going here for already the upcoming semester, but also the upcoming autumn semester. Currently, the classes are being held online for the May intake, but they will be planned on campus for autumn. And well, there's no quarantine in place, but there are mandatory masks and a health form that you have to have filled in on arrival. Last but not least, we have Dublin, Ireland, where we have the American College of Dublin. The current restrictions or procedures in place are that there's a 14-day quarantine and a PCR test required on arrival. Classes are being held online. And well, I just checked the news today, and the Irish Times reports that they are on the cusp of getting ahead of the pandemic, meaning they're opening up, for example, sporting events and bigger events inside the country as well. Next up, we have our category 3 destinations. These are kind of the big question mark destinations for the upcoming autumn semester. They're also destinations where teaching is currently fully online. There's travel restrictions, maybe visa restrictions currently in place. These could still change for the autumn semester, and online studies are possible from outside of these destinations. Currently, these are Bali, first of all, where we have Warmadeva University, Undiknas University, and Udayana University. The student visas for Bali and Indonesia in general are not being issued yet. However, we have extremely positive signs of the country opening up. In general, Indonesia currently is very much favoring and prioritizing Bali in terms of the vaccination protocol, and they're vaccinating as many people as they can currently because, well, Bali lives off tourism, and they want Bali to open up as fast as possible. So we strongly believe that for the upcoming autumn semester, Bali is showing extremely positive signs of being open to student mobility. Currently, the universities there are offering online classes for example, students attending our exchange hubs in Asia. Next up, we have Malaysia, where we have University Putra Malaysia. I know there may be a lot of, for example, French students who have applied to UPM, so the situation there may be of interest to you right now. The current situation is that the borders are not open, and student visas are not being issued. You may be able to apply for student visa through your local embassy, but it will be denied by the Malaysian officials currently. However, UPM has informed us that there are also pretty positive signs in terms of Malaysia opening up for the autumn semester, and they are currently also in discussions with the health officials, the education officials in Malaysia to open up for the upcoming autumn semester in terms of student mobility. Currently, UPM in Malaysia is offering online classes for example, exchange hub students or students studying from anywhere around the world. Last but not least, in category 3, we have Shanghai University located in China. We have no news, unfortunately, of travel being possible for the autumn semester. We strongly believe that they are currently preparing to receive students in the spring 2022 semester, and they are currently offering online classes. So let's say you want to study from home, or want to travel abroad during the pandemic and do online studies, then Shanghai University might be a choice for you. Last but not least, category 4, what the category 4 destination means is that there's no online courses offered, and there are currently travel restrictions and visa restrictions in place. The only university we currently have in this category is Taiwan, and Xi'an University located in Taiwan. Currently, the borders are closed. They have been closed since the start of the pandemic, and no online classes are being offered. Of course, the pandemic situation, due to them being closed, has been well under control. And actually, today we have received news that the Taiwanese government is looking to organize some kind of quarantine accommodation for anybody coming into the country. And well, if you look at it that way, then of course, in a sense, that's very positive news for example, student mobility for autumn semester. So even though we do have it in the category 4 categorization right now, it's important to note that the situation in Taiwan could actually change quite drastically for the upcoming semester, and quite quickly as well. So if you're interested in Taiwan, please do check our COVID-19 updates page, or any other situation, any other destination as well. We update the situation and categorization of our different host countries. They're constantly on a weekly basis. Last but not least, I wanted to mention our exchange hubs. This is a concept that Asia Exchange, together with our partner universities, have come up with to tackle the challenges caused by student mobility, or caused by COVID-19 pandemic in terms of student mobility. And well, it's we have 2 different exchange hubs. We have one at Siam University in Bangkok, and one in the European University of Lisbon in Portugal. What are they? Well, they are university campuses offered by Siam University, European University of Lisbon. They offer their student services, any events that come with that. You're able to meet other exchange students. You're able to actually travel into another country and gain a study abroad experience while doing online studies to your original host university, if you're not able to travel to the country your host university is located in. As an example, Malaysia has been closed for the spring 2021 intake, and we have had students travel to Siam University in Bangkok and complete online studies to UPM in Malaysia, and attend the campus there, meet other students, use the student services there. So in that sense, get at least somewhat of a study abroad experience when abroad. Last but not least, these are the upcoming application deadlines for autumn 2021 for South Korea. For those students going to South Korea, Hankuk University is coming up on May 31st, Hanyang University on June the 13th. Then next up, Malaysia will be ending on April the 30th. So that's extremely soon. If you are applying to Malaysia, please make sure that you have all your documents in order by the deadline date. For Thailand, Siam University, May the 31st, Rangsit University, also very soon on April the 30th. Then we've got Kazakhstan University coming up on May 14th, and University of the Thai Chamber of Commerce on June the 13th. For Taiwan, if you want to test your luck, then you might want to apply by April 30th, have all your documents in order by then. In terms of Shanghai University, if you're interested in their online studies for the autumn 2021 semester, then May 31st is when you should have everything in order. For Vietnam, similarly, May 31st is your final deadline. For Bali, the deadlines are upcoming quite late. These are latest deadlines in terms of our Asian destinations. For Udayana University, that would be June 30th, Undikanas University, July 30th, and Warmadeva University as late as August 1st. Then in terms of our beyond abroad destinations, the European University of Lisbon is still accepting applications until August 31st, the University in Cagliari until September 15th, and Costa Rica, Ulasit over there until June 25th. Last but not least, American College of Dublin until September 9th. So yeah, be sure to write these down or check our websites for the latest application deadlines, and make sure that you do have your applications in order by your respective deadline, depending on where you're applying to. But yeah, moving on, I should have Megan Helwig here from Hancock University of Foreign Studies, as well as Tim Wagner. He has informed me that he is currently on a bus traveling in Bangkok. Hopefully we can also get him online as well. Are you guys here?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you well, Megan.
Perfect.
Okay. Can you hear me without any background noises?
Yeah, Tim, we can hear you well. We can hear you well.
Okay, perfect.
How are you guys doing?
I'm very good. Yeah, just studying. We have midterms this week, so it's more studying, but it's fine.
Okay. Tim, you're on the road. Where are you headed
Yeah,
to?
heading to Bangkok. So there's 12 hours left to drive. So yeah, quite an adventure.
Okay.
And they have no light in the bus, so yeah.
No worries.
I'll do my best.
We can barely see you, and I think the more important thing here is that we can hear you, right? So, where are you coming from? Actually, it's interesting to see that travel is possible inside Thailand, and I think in our earlier webinar as well, you were planning some kind of trip. So, talk to us a little bit about that.
I was in the south, in Surat Thani, and in Kopangan, which is close to Koh Samui. So I was traveling there, but unfortunately there has been like a third wave of COVID infections. So I tried to get back to Bangkok before they impose a quarantine, because there are travel restrictions coming every day. But at the same time, cases are starting to get fewer again. So yeah.
Yeah, and actually, Thailand has I think also put out a statement regarding anybody who may be vaccinated by the upcoming fall. Those incoming travelers to Thailand may be exempt from, for example, quarantine measures. So despite the third wave there, I think that's very positive news from Thailand. What about Megan? Yeah, go ahead.
So they said it might be under control in like 4 weeks again. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think in terms of Thailand and Korea in general, the measures have been pretty efficient. Well, all over during the pandemic. So in that sense, I'm hoping that despite the third wave, you feel safe over there.
Definitely.
What about Megan? So last time we spoke, your opinion was that if it weren't for kind of the masks and the restrictions on how many people can meet up, for example, in public spaces, you would not know that there is a pandemic there. Any developments in terms of the pandemic situation in Korea?
Like I would say it hasn't changed that much. There was like a little scare because we had numbers around 400 cases a day, and then they started to increase to like 700 or something. And there's this rule: Korea has like different distance measures, and at the moment we're at 2.0 in Seoul. And they wanted to increase it to 2.5, which would mean that all bars and clubs close, and that restaurants are only open till 9, and I think all coffee shops close. And especially the coffee shop situation would be really sad, because that's like a huge culture here, especially for studying. But in the end, they decided, because of the economy, that they only close the clubs and the bars, though those have just like changed to become restaurants officially. So they're kind of open, but like we are not sure if this like is like completely legal. So I wouldn't go there at the moment. But yeah, otherwise nothing has changed. Like we have everything closes at 10, and the library extended hours till 11 because of the studying at the moment for midterms. So yeah, it's still like it's been like 2 months ago.
Yeah, exactly. And well, I think in this situation, no developments is kind of kind of a good thing, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And also the numbers are getting down again. So, and it's actually, it's not a lot of cases in Seoul itself. It's just like around Seoul.
So have you guys been studying at these cafes? I think I was speaking to one of our full degree students through Asia Exchange in Korea just last week, and she mentioned that currently with the studies being online, they're searching for example, interesting cafes around Seoul, and they're picking a different cafe each day, going to study there for with friends, with a group of friends, for example. So is that something that you're, for example, currently doing? Or are you doing your studies in the dormitories?
No, like I don't know anyone who's doing their studies in the dormitories, because it's just, there's so much more out there. And especially like this one road next to the university, there are at least 7 coffee shops, and they're all like, they're not big chains, but they're like small and independent. And we have a lot of diverse ones. Like we have one that is very like stylish, like very modern. And they play like American music and have like lemonade and stuff. And then there's one that is like completely full of plants. And they're like, it's just one street, and there are so many around campus. So it's just, you don't need to take the subway or anything, and you can see something else every day. And everyone is there studying. So it's like a really nice atmosphere as well. Yeah,
lots of students around, I can imagine. What about Tim? How are your studies currently organized?
So now they are online again, but only for 2 weeks, and then probably we can go to the campus again. But for the moment, it's all going well. There was the Thai national holiday last week, so we didn't have any classes during when the third wave started. But now they've made a statement that they wanted to change to online classes for 2 weeks, but I'm quite optimistic that we can get to campus again. So
yeah, that's definitely good news. Good news over there. But yeah, we may also have quite a few new students tuning in who were not present here for the first webinar this spring. So we could maybe talk a little bit about some pre-travel preparations as well. And I thought maybe Megan could first start and walk us through what your process was in terms of pre-departure, for example, organization, as well as the arrival process into Korea.
So basically the most important thing is obviously applying for visa. So for me, it took like, I'd say from application to finish like a month. And I had plenty of time to do it. So I think I picked it up in the middle of January, and I flew to Korea in the beginning of February. Yeah, January and February. And then you have to do a PCR test. And the rule in spring was that it has to be 72 hours before departure. And I would recommend, especially like, I'm German, I don't know how it's in different countries, but for the Germans, I would recommend to go to the Centogene test centers at the airport, because they know what they need to do. And you basically just get tested, and you get the test results in, I think, at least 24 hours, but I got them in like 8. And then basically at Incheon, at the airport in Korea, the first thing that they look at is your PCR test, and you have to download it in English, which is like possible. And they look at it, and I think it's the most important document, because like the visa they look at once, but the PCR test, I think they looked at like 4 times or something. And then they take your temperature and guide you through immigration processes. And basically you don't need to do a lot, because the Koreans, they speak English, but they don't speak it very well. And everything is very automated. So you just stand in line a lot, and they just like guide you to the next step. So it's like, actually you just need to stay calm, have all your documents ready, have your contact information for your Airbnb, for where you're doing your quarantine. Then the telephone number of your Airbnb host, because you need to have one contact person. And also I would recommend you to get a very good credit card before coming to Korea. I would advise you to take the one from the Deutsche Kreditbank, which is the DKB that usually works here. and to maybe get a SIM card before. You don't need to use it the whole time. I changed my SIM card now, but it's really practical because they all ask for a telephone number. You can also give them your ID for like a messaging chat, like that's Kakao Talk in Korea. But yeah, that's basically that. And then you are guided to like take a taxi or a bus to your quarantine facility. You are not allowed to go into hotels because you are long-term stayer and not like short-term resident. So I picked an Airbnb, and I would advise you to find a host who speaks like at least kind of good English, so you can maybe ask him to buy you groceries. Because if you're not in a certain area of Seoul, it's kind of hard to get delivery all the time, and it's also getting really expensive after some time. So definitely do that. Yeah, and then take something with you to like keep you distracted because you're staying there 2 weeks.
Yeah. Now, what about the quarantine app? That did you download that beforehand, or did you have the officials at the airport guide you through that process?
Yeah, so basically there are like big information tablets where you can like see what you need to do on your phone, but basically they would also just like take your phone and install it for you, and then they actually take it and show you where you need to do what. So basically you need to take your temperature twice a day. Like I would advise you to take a thermometer with you, because some got some from the health center and some didn't. So take one with you, and then you just need to take your temperature twice a day, and also yeah, like put in if you have any symptoms. And you can also contact the health officer over this app, which is really practical because sometimes you don't know who to call. And usually if you call them, they speak Korean. So there you can speak, like message them in English, and they will reply on Kakao Talk.
Exactly. And I think I'd like to emphasize that this quarantine app is crucial for you to use during quarantine. Do take care that you follow the instructions given to you. If you do not, they will check up on you either through the app or maybe even come to the residence in person, or call you, for example, to check that you are at the residence and that you follow the instructions given by the officials. What about Tim? I think it may have been a little bit different for you during the pandemic going to Thailand.
Yeah, but a lot is quite similar to South Korea. So the most important tip I can give anyone is to just apply early for the visa, because all the paperwork will take some time. And after that, you have to get a PCR test up to 72 hours before the flight in English. So same as for Korea. When you arrive, they will take you to your accommodation, like your hotel, and they take care of everything. So you don't have to do a lot. Just show them your documents, and then all will be fine. But you have to do the quarantine in a hotel. There are specific hotels offering the service, but you can't do it in an Airbnb. And you also take your temperature two times a day, and you have to send it to the hotel staff. For the rest, they take care of everything.
Yeah, and talk to me a little bit about your experience at the quarantine hotel.
Actually, it didn't feel like prison. It was boring from time to time, but if you have like some projects, like starting to learn Thai or Korean, or just reading books, or I already had some classes online because the semester had already started. For the rest, I was allowed to go out of my room 2 times a day for 1 hour to just walk around the pool area and the hotel garden. Yeah, so all in all, it was boring, but relaxing at the same time. And no prison, or I heard a lot of horror stories, but it wasn't that bad.
Okay. Hey, it looks like Leonie has raised their hand. Maybe you can open up your mic and ask a question here.
Yeah, I have a question, especially for Korea and probably especially for Germans, as I discovered the rule for health insurance as foreigners changed. However, I quite haven't figured out yet if it's mandatory to take the Korean health insurance or if I can take my German one, as this one would be cheaper and would cover more.
Yeah, good question. Currently, you are fine with the German insurance.
Okay, thank
So
you.
you do not need the national insurance from the Korean officials. Then we also have a question here from Julia Salmon. Feel free to ask. Open up your mic.
Yes, I have a question regarding the visa process. How long before the semester start of Hanguk University do we usually get this acceptance letter to apply for the visa? And is it possible to speed up the visa process for additional payment?
Good question. So we are not official visa issuers. Asia Exchange does contact local embassies, but we do not issue visas. And that also means that you would need to contact your local embassy. In terms of the specifics on the visa process, I do know that for most European countries, the visa issuance currently lasts around 2 to 3 weeks. And in terms of receiving the documents, we are already currently working to send our first student batches to our host universities in Korea, meaning that the first applicants, as long as they have their documents in order, should be receiving their visa documents as well as their official acceptance letters within the next month or so. And
Okay.
I would say that latest we are aiming for a June deadline for example, Korean official acceptance letters and visa documents for all students.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. We do have just under 10 minutes left here. I think I could open up the chat here as well and see what further questions we have. So let's see. Actually, and just give me a second here, opening up the chats.
Can I pose a question in the meantime?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
It's for you, Tim. Just wanted to ask, how much did you have to pay for the quarantine hotel? And do you pay that there with your credit card, or do you have to pay it in advance?
The second question first, I paid it in advance. For the rest, I had to pay, I think, 1,300, but you can, I think the cheapest quarantine is 900, but you can, it goes up all the way. You can also pay like 20,000, but the prices are starting at 900 for all of it, like the COVID tests, and of course the food, if you need water, all of that is included. But yeah, it's quite expensive, but luckily you won't spend a lot of money in Bangkok because it's quite cheap.
Okay, so 900 euro.
I think, yeah, I have friends who did it for 900. I paid a bit more because my hotel was one of the few offering to go out 2 times a day and to have a balcony. But they were also quite happy with theirs. So I think you should just read some reviews, because some expensive hotels get very bad reviews. Some of the cheap hotels get great reviews. So yeah, just go with that.
And there's also some options for some alternative
And
stays.
then
I have read.
you should
Is that right?
have quite a good,
Seems like Tim is cutting out a little bit here.
no. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I heard that when you are Thai, you can do the quarantine at your family's place, but as a foreigner, you have to do it in an ASQ, in a hotel. I haven't heard yet of anything else.
Okay. Cool,
Yeah,
thank you.
same for Asia Exchange. So we have only heard that you're able to do it in the quarantine hotels. Then we have somebody asking, should we open a WhatsApp group together? I'd also like to mention that we also provide Facebook groups for all our students. Depending on where you're going, you'll be invited into a separate WhatsApp, not a WhatsApp group, but a Facebook group. You're able to network there, find, for example, roommates. But of course, you're free to open a WhatsApp group independently as well with any fellow students. Are there any outlooks on exemptions or changes of rules for vaccinated people in Korea for autumn, for example? Well, I mean, I think that with the statement made by Thailand in terms of vaccinated travelers arriving, we highly expect that other Asian countries and other countries around the world will also follow suit. Whether that will happen for the upcoming autumn semester remains to be seen.
I have a question. How expensive is the quarantine in Korea to Megan? And is it only possible for living there in students living places, or is it possible to have like a shared room or something else too?
You mean for the quarantine or for normal accommodation during the semester?
For the normal accommodation. And how expensive was the quarantine Airbnb? What did you pay?
What was the quarantine? It really depends what Airbnb you pick. So if you pick one in the more like nicer areas, it could be more expensive. Like if you want to have an Airbnb in Gangnam, it can be like 1,500 or something. But I paid, I think it was 700, but I'm not completely sure. But I think it was around 700. And for my accommodation, I live in one of the dorms, and I pay, it's 1,200 euros for 4 months. And you pay it in cash at the beginning of the semester. And it really is like, it really depends on how you like to live, because in dorm B and Globy dorm, which would be probably for you, because I assume you're a boy, they are kind of smaller and you have a roommate. So there's not a lot of privacy. And in Globy dorm, you don't have a kitchen. So if you want to have like your own room, you probably need to look into shared houses, and that is totally possible. I would just advise you to start looking soon, because it's really hard to get a lot of Airbnbs for like multiple people. Maybe you get one for yourself, but those would be like a little bit more expensive than the dorms, definitely.
Yeah, and I think Megan is currently in international house or in one of the international houses, and these are more expensive than the on-campus equivalent, so to say, which would be, for example, the Globy dorm that costs around 800 euros for the whole semester. So yeah, a little less amenities for the on-campus equivalents, but then it's also a little cheaper. So basically, if you have not applied, or if you have already applied, you can also specify your choice of accommodation to us as well. There will be no separate application forms needed to apply, but we will communicate your choice of accommodation to Shanghai University of Foreign Studies, and you'll be placed in the dormitory of your choice. Yeah, I think Leonie had their hand raised once again. Maybe we can take another question from Leonie.
Yeah, I have a question regarding quarantine. All my friends had their quarantine with the university, and I already checked like the requirements, and you can take a hotel, but Megan just said it's not possible for long time stay. So it's I have to take an Airbnb, or can I take the government hotel quarantine thing?
Yeah, so to my current knowledge, the quarantine hotels are specifically for short-term visitors, and the Airbnbs then have to be used by the long-term visa holders. If you're going to Hanyang University, they currently offered the quarantine option in one of their dorms. So this turned out to be quite a lot cheaper than, for example, an Airbnb. It was around 400 euro for 2 weeks, whereas, for example, Megan paid the 700 for the Airbnb. If you're going to Hankook University of Foreign Studies, they unfortunately do not offer the option to quarantine in one of the dorms. So you would need to search for something independently. Of course, it's important to note that you're also able to quarantine with other people. Currently, there are a few, I would say, rules in place in terms of the quarantine residence. If you are quarantining with anybody else, officially, you should have separate bedrooms and separate bathrooms for anybody quarantining in one residence. And what this means is, well, for 2 people, that would be 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and you're good to go. And that way, you're also able to kind of split the cost a little bit.
I just saw that people were wondering which dorm I'm in, and they were talking about House C. I finally figured out what the thing is with House C, because Asia Exchange doesn't offer House C, because it's usually reserved for the Chinese exchange students. But the Chinese exchange students didn't come this year. They are all in China at the moment. That's why there were spots opened, and that's why some of us were able to move into C. But that's probably the reason why it's not possible for us usually to get in here. So just that you know, in case you wanted to apply for C, it's usually not possible.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for the clarification, Megan. We have Laura here who raised their hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering about the health exam we have to take for dorms in Korea at Hankuk University, because I applied for Globi dorm, and on the website it said like that we have to take the tuberculosis test, like the chest X-ray and skin test. And I was just wondering how we have to do this, if we have to do it in our home country or in Korea.
Yeah, maybe I'd actually let Megan answer that, because I think you did also go through this experience as well.
Yeah, so I would recommend for you to do it in Korea, because there's a clinic just like right next to the university. It costs around 15 euros, so 20,000 won, and it takes like 5 minutes. Like I didn't need to do a skin test because the international houses don't require that. But basically it's a small room, they take a picture, and then you're out of there. So it's really quick.
Okay, and did you do it after the quarantine then?
Yeah, like after the quarantine, I took a taxi to get to Hafs, and then they gave me like document and just told me to go over to the clinic, and they already knew what I wanted, and then I moved into the dorms.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, then I'll grab a quick question here from the chat. When will we receive confirmation from HOOFs? Well, as mentioned earlier, we're aiming to have the official acceptance letters and the visa documents to all students by the end of June. And well, Melina here has answered that official confirmation 1 or 2 months before the start of the semester. Of course, with the COVID pandemic in place, it will definitely not be 1 month before, as that's too short for you guys to book your accommodation, make further travel plans. So definitely looking to get those to all of you beforehand and earlier than 1 month before. Then we have Eulix here who has a raised hand. Go ahead.
Hey, I have a quick question about the application for in general. So I have currently applied for Malaysia and for Korea, and I've been told that we need to decide pretty soon for which country we need to finish our application. And I just wanted to know what the recommendation from Asia Exchange is, since I've missed the first part of the meeting. Is Malaysia currently safe, or is it rather not recommended to visit it?
Yeah, very good question. So to recap what I said earlier in the presentation, Malaysia is currently in our category 3 destinations. What that means is they're not open for student mobility currently, and they're offering their classes online. So let's say you want to travel to another Asian country that happens to be open and, for example, complete online studies from another country to UPM, then you're able to do so. Of course, we do not know if it will be open for autumn semester, but we do have some positive signs there. But if I were to compare South Korea and Malaysia currently, South Korea during the pandemic has been performing extremely well throughout. And in that sense, it is a safe bet destination. So if I were to tell you right now, if you have the 2 choices of South Korea or Malaysia, I would tell you currently to complete your application to South Korea, but you can also complete them for both. You may have noticed that's in our application form. We ask for your backup destination. So if Malaysia is not open, we will definitely be able to get you into South Korea. I think you can still keep your options open for a while there.
Okay, thank you. And what would be the deadline for us to decide, or does Asia Exchange do it automatically if we have Korea as the backup option?
Yeah, so well, we usually go by our application deadlines. So I did mention them here earlier. So for Malaysia, currently it is April 30th. That's when you should have all your documents in order. And then for South Korea, it's either May 31st or June 13th, depending on which university you're applying to.
Okay, thank you. Because when I went to the Asia Exchange website, it mentioned that for Malaysia, it's May 30 actually for the application deadline. So I was just confused for a minute.
Okay, yeah, actually, to be honest, it could be that I have it wrong over here and it's May 31st for Malaysia, if that's it on our website. So apologies on my behalf there. That could be a typo on my part, and it's May 31st. So okay. If it reads May 31st on our website, it's May 31st, and apologies on my behalf.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Yeah, Amine has a question here. We're a little over time, but maybe we can take 10 more minutes of questions and then we'll finish up. Go ahead, Amine. If no question from Amine, we can move on to Julia. Are you able to unmute your mic and ask?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to ask if the dates are already out for the check-in at the dorms at Hankoku University.
Currently, they're not open yet, but we will be providing you more information when that becomes relevant. Normally, those are around 1 week before the start of the semester.
Okay, so it's about 1 week of all move-in days.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Then there's a question here, guys, when do you book flights, or did you already book? Maybe does Megan or Tim have any tips here?
So basically, I think a lot of us booked flights in December. Like we flew in February, so it's like 1.5 months before. I would advise you to take a round trip ticket, because even like you can cancel the second flight if you want to stay like a little bit longer, because I took just one flight because I wasn't sure if I extend or not, and that is way more expensive. So I paid like 1K for one flight, and a lot of people paid like 800 for 2. So maybe keep that in mind, that the prices should be around that.
All right, thanks. What about Tim?
You have, before you book your flight, you have to get your visa first, because of COVID, the application process has like 3 steps. So first you get your visa, then you have to show So later you will have to show your flight ticket, your reservation for the quarantine, and the certificate from your insurance company. And then they will give you this certificate of entry, which you need to enter Thailand. So you get the visa first, and then you know like which dates you can choose for a flight.
Yeah, it's the other way around in Korea, for Korea, basically. Like I had to show the embassy my flight to Korea when I planned to enter and the flight number. They didn't want to have a flight back though, so they were fine with just one.
Yeah.
Same with Thailand. Just a flight, one-way flight is enough.
Katya's asking, can I invite my friend, which is coming with me to the webinar? You can, for example, share the webinar recording with her. After we will be sending out the recording of this webinar, as well as a presentation to anybody who has joined or even registered to our webinar. So be sure to share that with her or them. Does anyone know when we'll get confirmation from Poofs? Yeah, we went over that. Are there any further questions? We do have 5-ish more minutes here. Who do we have to show the insurance to? I think this is regarding South Korea. Megan, do you have any insight on this?
Who they need to show the insurance to? Or like at the embassy, you have to show insurance as well, I think. At the airport, they didn't want to see that from me. Like I still had it with me and I would tell you to do it. And I think you need to show that at Hufs at some point. Just have a copy in English with you. Wherever you go, but I can't recall that they wanted to see that. Exactly. And I would say, well, health insurance currently in these times that we're living in, extremely important for anybody to have. And in terms of Korea in general, all your documents should be in either English or Korean. So I'm guessing for most applicants currently, the easiest choice here is English.
I would have one more question for Tim.
Sure, go ahead.
Tim, can you repeat it again with the flight and the visa? So does the visa determine when you can land in Bangkok?
So, like first you apply for your visa, and you will need some documents like your passport, the letter of acceptance from your host university. In Thailand, and some other documents. You will get a list about that. And when you show all the documents to the embassy, they will give you the visa. And when you have your visa, you have to upload your visa, like a scan or a picture of your visa, as well as your flight ticket and your ASQ reservation. And your insurance certificate to an online website, which the embassy will tell you. Like that, they will give you the link to the website. Then you have to upload these documents too, and they will get accepted in up to 72 hours. And then you can download your certificate of entry and print it out.
How is that connected to the flight? So you mean you need to wait for the date when you can basically enter the country first, and that's what you mean with the flight?
No. That wasn't what I meant. Apply for your visa first, and then if there's some problems, the whole process might take longer than expected, and so you would miss your flight.
Okay, but you can't just book a flight regularly. You don't need your visa for that.
You can book a flight,
okay.
But if they don't give you the visa, or if they give you the visa later than expected, you might miss your flight.
Well, yeah, of course.
Definitely take the visa first.
Okay,
because for me it took like 3 weeks longer than expected.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Then we have
no problem.
a message here from Katya. How much earlier can we enter Korea with a student visa? When does the visa start counting? So you will enter the country hopefully 4 to 3 weeks before the semester starts so that you can undergo your quarantine. And after that, go to the dormitory check-in and get settled. If you're staying or if you're looking for accommodation independently, then you do not need to, of course, go forth with the dormitory check-in. I would recommend 4 to 3 weeks currently. You will be changing your Korean student visa to an ARC. This is basically a card that will act as your student visa during your stay in Korea, and the dates of your semester will be updated into this ARC card. And we recommend that after your semester, you leave within 2 weeks after your semester ends. So hopefully that clears up some of the questions around that. We are actually on time, or we're over time here, and we have the last 15 minutes up here. I did notice Harry is here. I think our co-founder, the co-founder of Asia Exchange. So maybe Harry, do you have any last words to share before we give the mic once more to our 2 student panelists here?
Yeah, maybe final words from my side. First of all, I really like this active discussion here, and thanks Jonas for great hosting, and especially our guest hosts of the students there. So for your contribution, this is a perfect way how you can share the goodness from a student to student. I also wanted to share that I actually came like 1.5 months ago from Costa Rica. And it is possible to travel already now to certain countries, and also like pretty convenient that the situation in some Latin American countries like Costa Rica is very, very good. Last week I came from maybe the most exotic destination in Asia I have been for a while, from Uzbekistan, and that was like a fascinating, and it's just a good example that how kind of you really don't understand how some country is before you really visit there. So it was a very fascinating country, and I have never thought like Uzbekistan could be like one of the destination countries of Asia Exchange, but now I have maybe changed my mind, and they are really hungry for international students as well. So if there's anybody interested in a little bit kind of more kind of this untapped country, Uzbekistan is definitely a good choice. Just let us know and we can organize very affordable study places from there. But what I wanted to say with all this, I have been traveling to these countries and it is possible to go, and I'm sure that next autumn there is more opportunities, and if you are vaccinated, that also opens more doors. So yeah, don't give up of your dreams, and definitely you will have life-changing experiences abroad.
Thanks, Harry, for the encouraging words there. Any encouraging words or last tips from Tim and Megan before we end it up and wrap it up here today?
I forgot one thing, actually. You can ask your university in Thailand if they financially support your quarantine. I didn't know that before, but I heard that from other students, and they got back up to, I think, 10 or 15% of their quarantine. Some even more, but just ask them first.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Tim. Any last words from Megan?
Yeah. So basically, I'd say South Korea is a really safe place to study at the moment, and life is really normal over here. So I would encourage you to do it. Don't worry too much. I know it seems all like a lot to do, and like a lot of things can go wrong, but in the end, I have to say that the application process was more like making up things in my mind than actually things happening. I heard of none of the students that we were in contact with who couldn't come, and everyone got here safely. Everyone completed their quarantine safely, and is having a great semester now. So just focus on being excited and not be too worried about everything.
Thanks, Megan. And yeah, I think to wrap it up here, if you have any further questions, concerns, you know where to reach us, info@asiaexchange.org, or our WhatsApp, or you can even call us. book a counseling session for a one-on-one session for specific questions that you may have. And yeah, I mean, if you're interested in, for example, Uzbekistan, I think that's also something that we can arrange, as Harry mentioned. So if there's anybody out there interested in that, contact us regarding that as well. And I hope to see most of you in our pre-orientation webinars, or especially regarding Korea. I'll be hosting those. Other team members will be hosting theirs for their respective destinations, and we'll go more in depth into your pre-arrival preparations, your arrival into the country, course registration, accommodation, so on and so forth. So thanks for attending this webinar, and if you've attended any other webinar this spring, big thank you as well. And last but not least, thank you to Tim and Megan for taking the time out of your busy evenings and joining us here today to provide some insights on study abroad experiences during the pandemic. And at this point, a big thank you to all, and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.